that you are having an amazing morning. We are so excited to worship with you. Have a glorious day and be together. Come on.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my doom till I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Now your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. Oh, the old made new, Jesus, when I met you. You called my name, shout it out. I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. You're making a way. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Your glorious day. Let's keep it going this morning. Oh, I needed rescue. My sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter. I was an orphan, but you called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You're calling my name. You
what you do. And something I just got to give y'all props. Man, second service, y'all worship, because here's the thing, right? It doesn't matter how crazy we look. For you, it doesn't matter how bad you sound, right? Because you're out in the crowd. But what does matter is, what is your heart position towards God when you give that worship? And so if we're going to give it all to Jesus, let's give it all to Jesus, right? Let's just throw off the shame of embarrassment and being weird and just go for it. And just give it all to Jesus. And so I just want to appreciate that. I want to say, let loose, right? Let's get it, Let's give Jesus our best and just, it's worship to him. It's not a performance. It's not about how cool or great we look. It's about what we give to God. And so I just want to thank you guys. I want to thank you, the team, for continuing to lead us in true, heartfelt worship where we can just give it all to God. But man, have you guys ever just been intimidated by somebody? Yes, no, maybe, sure. Okay, how about this? Have you ever been intimidated by somebody's wealth, right? You had that pop-up table with the paper, paper tablecloth. I forgot the word last service. Paper tablecloth, and you put your turkey on it, and then you go on Instagram, you see someone's in Venice, in Italy, just enjoying a great Thanksgiving or whatever, and you're just wow, that's a different life. That's a little intimidating. I'm just over here eating my mashed potatoes. That's a little intimidating. Maybe you've been intimidated by somebody's looks. I don't know about you guys, but I have this issue where, man, sometimes I see people coming into church and I'm just they're on a different level. They've made it. They gotta be so cool. Their hair's always working for them. Their clothes are always great. And I'm just oh, they're so cool. I'm not that person, by the way. Just so you know, I'm not the cool person. Maybe you've been intimidated by someone's family, right? If you're a mom, I've noticed me and Caroline's Reels and TikTok algorithms are entirely different. And hers are consumed with these women who have just these perfect lives and go get lattes with their kids and stuff like that. And it's just you go home and your kid's screaming in your face, And it's kind of intimidating because it looks like they got this perfect life. And it's intimidating because you don't have that. Right? And maybe even more so, you've been intimidated. If you've ever gone into a gym before, it's beautiful. There's a lot of different types of people in the gym, but there's that one dude that everyone can hear. And why can everyone hear him? Because the dude is massive. He is jacked. And man, he makes some loud noises when he lifts those weights, but he is huge. And you go onto his machine afterwards, you take the pin and you're bringing it all the way down, and you're just hopefully nobody saw that. And you're just intimidated, right? That's intimidating to see someone who is just so much further along in their fitness regime, in their lifestyle, in their money, in everything. There's intimidating things in life. Now, just a quick story about me. For about the past 4 months, I've been trying to really prioritize and focus on my health and focus on my fitness, the lifestyle that I choose, because I'm a fast food person and I just want to get fast food all the time. But guess what? That's not very good for my body. And so I've been trying to make some steps and choices that are healthier for my life, for my family, and for me. And it's been really cool. I've got this great brother in Christ. His name's Justin, who's been helping me along the way. He's been leading me and teaching me all of these things about food, about fitness, and about all this stuff. But if you've ever seen Justin, or if you haven't, the dude's intimidating. He's got it all. He's got the abs, he's got the everything, and most importantly, it's kind of scary, he's got a crazy life. He wakes up at 5 a.m. every morning. I'm just this is a little crazy. And so it took me a minute to get adjusted to the way that Justin has taught me to focus on my fitness and focus on my health. And it's been beautiful to see the thing that we both find in common is how it connects to our spiritual life. Right? That getting those steps in, whatever it is for you in your life, it is crazy to see how it impacts your family and your faith. And so I've loved getting to experience that, but I have felt intimidated through the process. I get to work out with Justin on Tuesdays. We do chest days. And let me tell you, I'm not lifting the same weights as Justin. And so I see him constantly pushing me, constantly challenging me. But somewhere or someplace, we have all felt intimidated. It's just a common thing that we all face. And so to talk about intimidating today, I want to talk about a topic that is so essential to what it means to be a fully devoted follower of Christ. I want to talk about a topic today that is often not pushed like it should be, not emphasized like it should be, because a lot of times we just make it last place. We make it the least important thing in our life. Today, what I want us to talk about is this idea of serving. And you want to know something? Serving can be intimidating, right? Because whether it's serving here at the church or serving elsewhere, in the community, in a different organization, serving is intimidating because a lot of times there's qualifications, there's requirements, there's things being asked of you that you have to do. And so it's kind of intimidating. It's kind of terrifying in some ways and exciting in other ways. But church, I believe today that the reason you should listen to what I have prepared, the reason that every single one of us needs to hear this, whether we are serving, aren't serving, or thinking about serving, is because if we don't start showing up to serve, then we have missed the point. If we don't start showing up to serve, then we have missed the point of what church is about. It is about serving. It is about loving others, and we're going to dive more into that today. How do you think as a church we grow? How do you think as a church we reach the people, as TC says, that are not here yet? How do you think that we reach our church, our community, our neighbors, our friends, our coworkers? We serve them. We serve them. And so this is essential not only for you, but essential for your life to help other people get here. And people don't just come here because, oh, Noah, yeah, he was funny. People come here and they want to sit with you. They want to hang out with you. They want to be with you. So you're the reason to get someone here yet, but don't just leave them there. Be with them then. God has called all of us to help the people who are not here yet, who do not know God yet. And the best way we can do that is through serving. But can I be honest? I think a lot of people talk about serving in a very joyful and hopeful way. But guys, it's kind of exhausting. I have been middle school guys leader for the past 6 years. Pray for me. Pray for me. I'm looking at some of them over here. Awesome dudes. But hey, we have a week where it just feels like, oh, this is so cool. We're talking about God. It's spiritual. And then the next week, we're talking about farts. And you know what? I'm not going to lie. I might have encouraged the conversation last week. Braxton knows what I'm talking about. And it's crazy because it's exhausting, right? Like I'm trying to work into these students. I'm trying to love on these students. I'm trying to care about them. And sometimes it's just so exhausting because it feels like I'm getting nowhere. Sometimes it is so tiring. And so what I want you to understand today is a realistic understanding of what serving is. Because Jesus didn't call us to serve because it's the most fun thing in the world. He called us to serve because it is one of the greatest things to do. There's a big difference between what is just fun and what is worth it and what is good for you and for others. And so God has called us to serve, and we're going to dive more into this today. Because I think that we need to learn and lean into more about serving. We're going to learn through the story of Joseph today. How many people, raise your hands, have heard the story of Joseph? Maybe abbreviated version. Cool. We got about half people. So I'm going to explain where we're at in the story because we're going to jump in at a pretty intense moment of the story. So we're in Genesis chapter 40. We're going to be reading verses 20 to 23. But before we get there, I want to explain where we're at in the story. So if you know anything about Joseph, or if you don't, he had a lot of brothers. The youngest of 7, and those brothers love me, but my mic's out, so I'll yell a little bit while we get another mic. Those brothers love me, but, hey, there we go. Apparently, I shouldn't talk about my brothers in a bad way, no. They're brothers, right? If you have brothers, you know what brothers are like. And so Joseph had, I think 5, something around that number. Fact check me on that. But he had a lot of brothers. And most importantly, his dad was maybe not the wisest guy. He showed a lot of favoritism to Joseph. And as we understand more about Joseph, we understand why there was that favoritism. Joseph was very different. From a very early age, he was a kid and a teenager and a dude who just loved God and served God no matter what. But it didn't change the fact that when your father shows favor to one, it creates jealousy with the rest of the siblings. And so these siblings continued to get more jealous and more jealous to the point where they decided they were going to kill Joseph. They had mapped out the plan. They decided how they were going to do it and when they were going to do it. And then one of the brothers who loved Joseph convinced them to sell him into slavery instead. So much better. And so Joseph, at a young age, feeling favored by God, getting visions from God, was sold into slavery by his brothers. Not only that, Joseph then led to be a servant of his master, and his master had a wife who started saying lies about what Joseph did. Great story in Potiphar's Wife, if you ever want to read it, about what we do when we face temptation. We run the other way. Joseph is a great example of how to do that. But Joseph, lies were told about Joseph, and he was sent into prison in Egypt. And so he was in prison for a very long time, but so much so he continued to be faithful to God, continued to serve God and do whatever he could in the prison. He built relationships with the prison guards. He started to get to know them, so much so that these guys are just like, hey, Joseph, what's up, man? You know, they were just like chill with him. Prison guards shouldn't be chill like that, I hope. And Joseph built a relationship. And then one day, Pharaoh sends to jail his cupbearer and his baker. I'm going to gander. It doesn't say, well, I'm going to gander that baker burnt the souffle. You know what I'm saying? And then I think that the cupbearer, all he had to do was hold the cup. So he must have dropped it. So anyways, these guys go into jail. And they're in jail because, yeah, Pharaoh sent them, the king of all Egypt. And this is where we enter the story, is Joseph is with these guys. He's hanging out with these guys in jail. And these guys both get dreams, because they haven't had their sentence yet. They don't know what's going to happen to them. Right now, they just know they're in jail. And they have dreams, and Joseph interprets the dreams. And truthfully and honestly, he says to the baker, he says, your dream means that Pharaoh will hang you. And to the cupbearer, he says, you will be brought back into the position you used to have. And then he says one other thing very intentionally to the cupbearer, the dude that would still be alive. He said, don't forget me. Don't forget what I have done. Don't forget me. Because Joseph is trying, he's desiring a way out to be able to do more. Not for himself, but so he knows God has a mission for him. He wants to go and accomplish that. He can't do that in jail. And so Joseph pleads, do not forget me. And here's where we enter the story, Genesis chapter 40, verses 20 to 23. Here's what it says. Now the third day was Pharaoh's birthday, and he gave a feast for all of his officials. He lifted up the heads of the chief cupbearer and the chief baker in the presence of his officials. He restored the chief cupbearer to his position so that he once again put the cup into Pharaoh's hand, but he hanged the chief baker, just as Joseph had said to them in his interpretation. But then hear this. The chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. Did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. After everything Joseph said would happen, and it did. After everything Joseph did to serve those men, and yet they forget him in jail. They forget about the act that he did of serving those men, interpreting them their dreams and loving on them. So Joseph, in the act of serving, was forgotten, which leads us to our first point, which is serving is tiring. Serving is tiring. It's not for the faint of heart. And just to be honest, if you don't know, we're expecting baby number 2. We're really excited for that. Thank you. Pray for me. Baby number 2, and why is it only recently that I've started to remember what baby number 1 was like? Like, leading up to it, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be so fun, it's gonna be so great. And then like, I think it was like last week it just hit, and I was like, those diapers are really smelly. They're really gross, guys. You don't want to experience it. Well, I mean, it's beautiful. Not the poop, but the baby. And I started thinking, I was like, man, I remember I didn't have a single pair of clothes that didn't have baby burp up on them. I didn't have very much sleep, if any. And I'm like, why am I just now remembering this? I think it's God's way of blessing me and not putting that strain on my mind for forever. But here's the thing I was thinking about. That baby that I changed, that I fed, that me and my wife cared for, she never said thank you. Like, come on, I was serving her, right? I was caring for her. I was giving her what she needed, and she just stares at me. Just looks at me. It's just like, hey, it's your job. Do it. I'm like, why not a thank you, right? Well, baby can't talk. But in all reality, this is a lot what serving feels like. And if you have kids in any age, you understand that you're not going to get a lot of thank yous where you deserve them. Right? You're not going to be appreciated in the way that you sometimes wish you could be appreciated. Because this is what serving is like. It is tiring. It is tiring. Why are we serving our children? Why do we serve our children if they never say thank you, if they puke on us, and if they ask us to change their diapers? Why are we serving them? Not because of what they can do for us, but because of what God has called us to do for them. Right? Serving, it's often just like that little baby. It doesn't want to say thank you back. And this is what Joseph experienced as he continued to serve these men. So we enter into the story a little bit more. Joseph waited 2 whole years. 2 whole years he was forgotten. 2 whole years he continued to be in jail, waiting for God's faithfulness, waiting for what God had for him. And this is what's beautiful. Pharaoh has a dream. Pharaoh, the king of all Egypt, has a dream. And in that moment, the cupbearer finally goes, oh yeah, I remember that guy now. 2 years later. And he brings Joseph in front of Pharaoh, and Joseph interprets the dream for Pharaoh, shares that there will be a famine for 7 years, that they should start building out the resources and protecting them and being prepared for what will come. Because of this amazing interpretation that Joseph gave to King of Pharaoh, this King of Pharaoh did not just make Joseph get out of jail. He didn't just help Joseph into a good paying position. He put Joseph second in command of all of Egypt. But what did it take for Joseph to get there? Sold into slavery, lies told about him threw him in jail, waited 2 years in jail, all the way to get to where that moment happened. He was serving God and faithful to God through it all. And yet the blessing didn't come for a long, long time. And that is why serving is so tiring. Here's where we jump in to the story. Joseph's brothers are coming into town. His brothers haven't seen him, and so they don't even recognize Joseph. If all my brothers were coming, they've done wrong by me, they're coming from me, they don't recognize me, I'm plotting, right? I'm like, oh, how am I going to get them back, right? Joseph's got all the power in the world. He can do whatever he wants. And yet here we read, as Joseph is meeting with his brothers, he sends his brothers back in Genesis chapter 44, verses 1-2. He sends his brothers back, but he tests them. Hear this. Joseph gave these instructions to steward of his house. Fill the men's sacks with as much food as they can carry. Remember, there was a famine. They needed that food. And put each man's silver in the silver one in the mouth of his sack. Then put my cup, the silver one, in the mouth of the youngest one's sack, along with the silver for his grain. And he did as Joseph said. Why is this significant? Joseph was testing his brothers. He put his own cup in the sack of the youngest brother to see that when they stopped them and found that the youngest brother was a thief, how his brothers would react. How his brothers would respond. Because Joseph was wanting to see if heart change had taken place in his brothers since what took place back when they sold him into slavery. Joseph was wanting to see if these guys had changed. He was giving them an opportunity, but he was testing them, and he did this because, our second point, serving is intentional. Serving is intentional. You have time, money, and talents, and yet they're limited. They're a limited resource. And so if you go your whole life just serve whatever you can, you'll never be able to be intentional with what you can do the best with, how you can get the most people to hear about Christ, how you can love the most people, how you can care for the most people. You must be intentional with how you serve, because our time, our money, and our talents are a limited resource. And so we must use them intentionally in the way we serve and the way we love others. Serving should be intentional with what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. And serving, it is about knowing your gifts, your opportunities, and then seeing how you can use those to change lives in the name of Jesus. Serving is so intentional. And so Joseph tested his brothers. They come back, bring the cup, ask for forgiveness. They don't want their youngest brother. Their hearts have changed. They don't desire for their brother to be sold, to go in prison, any of this stuff. And here's where we enter the story in Genesis chapter 45, verses 4-15. Joseph, the charade is finally up for him. He says, Joseph said to his brothers, "Come close to me." And when they had done so, he said to them, "I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt." I love what he says afterwards, because if I was the brothers, I'd be like, oh, shoot. He says, and now don't be distressed, and do not be angry with yourself for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will not be plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, and ruler of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and say to him, this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, don't delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me, you, your children and grandchildren, and your flocks and herds, and all you have. I will provide for you there, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise, you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. You can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that it is really I who am speaking to you. Tell my father about all the honor accorded me in Egypt and about everything you've seen, and bring my father down here quickly. And I love these last two verses. Then he threw his arms around his brother Benjamin and wept, and Benjamin embraced him weeping. And he kissed all of his brothers and wept over them. Afterward, his brothers talked with him. I don't know about you, but I don't think I would have this position like Joseph did. I don't think that I would feel this way towards my brothers, that I would feel like I would just want to love them and serve them and care for them. I don't think that I would care about how worried they were when they realized who I was. I don't think I would have this same feeling as Joseph. And sometimes it's kind of frustrating because I know I need to have the same feeling and heart as Joseph. But a lot of times I don't want to, because that's difficult. That means putting others before myself and my own needs and my own desires to get back. But Joseph chose to serve his brothers, and he chose to look at his whole life. The whole outlook of his life is God was doing something so that I could save lives. I was serving, and it was for a purpose. See, it's simple. Joseph says this. Joseph has this heart condition because he served a God who provided for him in the ups and in the downs. He served a God when it was tiring, and he served a God with intentionality. And most importantly, he learned, our third point, that serving is humbling. Serving is humbling. As you begin to serve others, as you begin to care for others, you begin to understand it's not all about you, right? Serving, it pushes you to be sacrificial. It pushes you to love. It pushes you to show mercy, and it pushes you to show forgiveness. Because when I'm serving, I can't be thinking about me. I get to think about others. This is what God has designed for us. Serving is humbling. And as I'm talking about humbling, I'm just going to give a quick humble brag about my small group leaders. You guys cool with that? They are amazing. And I was talking to them recently and just hearing about their lives, their jobs, the things they got going on. And you want to know what blew me away? They don't have time to serve. They make time to serve. I have 2 nurses that are both leaders for me. They have a 12-hour shift. They come to church. They take a 2-hour nap, and then they serve on Sunday nights for youth. They've had 2 hours of sleep, because they want to serve the next generation, because they care about serving other people. They have learned what we have learned, is that serving is humbling. And as we learn how to serve and learn how to be humble, we learn how to be more like Jesus and care less about us and more about others. Serving is humbling. Do you want to know the biggest reason why you should get connected to taking a step of serving today? Because right here, Mark chapter 10, verse 45, it says, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to, what's that word? Serve. The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. He didn't come for what was in it for him. He came for how he could love and serve others. He came to serve, and he set an example of what that looks like. Even Christ himself did not come to be served, but to serve others. There's no place you need to be at. Hear this. There's no place you need to be at before you can choose to serve. There's no qualifications or things that you need to have. You don't need to be so smart or so wise to just start serving. To serve. And it made me think about this a lot, because serving is a lot like this, right? I was experiencing this. I just was like, man, I'm talking about fitness. I gotta find a way to bring fitness into this, right? And so I've been working out with Justin, so my form is not perfect and these weights are light, because I knew I had to do this 3 times. But serving, as you do more reps, is tiring. I'm already tired because I did this a lot first service. It's tiring. But what I'm doing, the action that I'm doing, is intentional. Serving is intentional. I'm working a specific muscle. And most importantly, serving is humbling, because when I put my weights down, I see Justin pick up about triple the amount of weight. And I'm humbled by the reality that I have a lot of work to do, that I can still grow in my faith and in my life. And so what I want you to understand, what I want you to hear, is that serving God is not about what I get. It is about what I can give. Serving God is not about what I get. It is about what I can give. Serving God, when I go and do my reps, it's not about what is this going to give? What is this going to get me? How am I going to get these things? No, in the moment, in the action of lifting that weight, I'm just thinking about, what can I give it? One more rep, one more set, one more try that's going to fail. What can I do? What can I give? And this is the same way that we should look at our faith and look at serving God. It's not about what I can get, because he's already given it to you. Do you get that? He's already given you eternity in heaven if you accept it. He wants you to receive that. He doesn't need to give you anymore. It's not about what I can get. It's about what I can give because of what he's given me. It's about what Jesus Christ gave me. Because hear this. You can't grow a muscle unless you choose to work it out. You can't grow your faith unless you choose to serve. It's the way, it's our spiritual fitness. It's the way that we work the muscle. It's the way we grow. So you don't step into serving being in a specific place. You step into serving with the goal of growing. You step into serving with the goal of, it's going to challenge your faith. It's going to be tiring. It's going to be intentional, and it's going to be humbling. But I'm doing it because if I want to grow, if I want to be a fully devoted follower of Christ, if I want to see my life produce fruit, then I need to serve. Serve the church, serve my neighbors, serve my community, serve my coworkers, serve my family, serve my friends, serve the people I don't want to serve. Serve them all, because it is what Christ did for us, and it is the only reason we get to be in heaven with him, is because he served us. He went on a cross and he died for us because he served us first. And so now it is our desire and our goal in all of life to serve God with everything we can, with everything we have, with all that we can give. You know, I was reading in this Bible today, and this is my Bible from 6th grade, and I remember my small group leader who gave it to me. And little did he know what would come of getting into the Word daily, what would come of me pursuing God and getting into his truth consistently. Little did he know what God had planned for me and what I would become, but he just chose to serve and to be faithful. And you know what? He doesn't have to know about it here. He gets to hear about it up there. When you get to go in heaven, if you've accepted Jesus in your life, you get to hear about how God has used you through your whole life to bring other people to him. You get to see, like I'm just imagining a television screen and you just get a recap of all the cool things that God did through you. You get to see that and hear that. You get to hear, you good and faithful servant. And that's our pursuit and that's our goal. And how do we get there? We serve. And so I'm not asking for 70% participation. I'm not asking for 80. I'm asking for 100% participation. Every single one of us has a next step of service. Whether that's choosing to serve in kids or youth, we need leaders. or that's choosing to serve in our first impressions team or serve in our worship team, or maybe it's choosing to serve your community this season as it gets crazy. Food pantries need more help. Community, all of these places need you to serve. Maybe it's setting out time to serve your family, your wife intentionally. Whatever it is, every single one of us has a calling to serve. And so I'm challenging every single one of you. I don't know what it is, but I know there is something. What is it for you to serve? What is the next step that you need to take to serve God today? Because he has it for all of us, every single one of us. And I know, church, that if we continue to serve God, we will continue to see God work in our lives through the ups and downs, through the exhausting and tiring moments, and through the blessings. Because God is with us, he is not against us, he is for us. And just as we sang, he is, and we are who he says we are. God is our Savior. And so would you all just bow your heads and pray with me? Father God, I want to give the opportunity for those who have never accepted you into their heart. Lord, it's very simple. The wages are sin. We've all fallen short of your glory, God. And so the wages of our sin, it is death, God. We've all sinned, and we've all fallen short, and we've all earned the same wage. And yet through your miraculous gift, God, you have salvation for us, because you tell us that if we confess with our mouth that you are Lord and believe in our heart that you rose from the dead, that you are who you say you are, it says you will be saved. And so, God, I pray for salvation right now. I pray an awakening in people's hearts right now, God. I pray in all of us, whether saved, whether not saved, whether serving, whether not serving, God, that right now in your spirit and in your power, that you would awaken hearts to serve, God, because this is your calling for our lives. The world is telling us to serve ourselves. You are telling us to serve others, to love others, to care for others, God. And so I lift your name up and ask, God, would you challenge, would you awaken us from our sleep and be reminded that we must serve, that you are calling us to serve, God, in your powerful name. God, we thank you. We thank you. We thank you for the way you served us first. May we use it to serve others and have a passion to love others. In your wonderful and powerful name, amen.
Hey there. Thank you so much for watching and checking us out. Hey, I want you to know we go live every Sunday. So I would love for you to like and subscribe to make sure that we can stay connected together all the time. I'll see you next time. Bye.